If you're moving to Guam on military orders, these are my top tips that I wish someone told me for our PCS to Guam. So I'm going to share them here to hopefully make your transition to the island smoother and significantly less stressful. Let's get into it. All right, so my first tip is going to be making sure that you update any addresses for your subscriptions. Basically, make a list of every kind of service you currently get delivery for, like Amazon or like physical mail, pet, supplies that if you get them delivered to your house, meal kits, things like that, and just make sure that your addresses are updated. For example, like we always got a specific kind of collagen delivered to us every other month, and that was like one of the addresses we forgot to update. So it got sent to our old house in Virginia, and it's just kind of a little bit of a pain because then you're having to ask somebody to go pick it up for you. It's a lot harder if you don't have somebody back home to like grab it for you, and then you don't have to ship it all the way to Guam. By the way, I am at the beach, so it's a little windy. You might see my hair kind of going crazy. Don't mind it. While you're transitioning, obviously, because you don't have a shipping address yet on Guam, one helpful thing is to get in touch with your sponsor from your receiving command, and they usually provide you the command's mailing address, which you can forward all your mail to or get certain things delivered to until you get your own primary residence address. On top of that, having to call stateside to like update your addresses, verbally, it's a little bit of a pain with the time difference. Trust me, we know because we already had to do it a few times. So that's another thing to be aware of. Okay, tip number 2 is going to be update your account authentication methods. I know a lot of your online accounts, it might require, like a verification via sending a code to your phone or sending a code to your email. So where you can, get it switched to email notifications. This is especially important for specific sites like government sites or banking, but like your TRICARE, your DEERS. My husband recently had to update his TSP, and he couldn't get logged in because it was sending it to his old phone number. So again, one of those things that can be really frustrating if you're having to call stateside when that window is open. And then obviously once you get your Guam phone number, or if you were able to get a service that does cover you in Guam as well, then that's something that you can just update later. The third tip I'm pretty sure most of you already are aware of, but make a note of your credit card zip codes, especially when you are trying to gas up. I believe that the gas stations on base, they require you to enter your zip code or for your billing. And so if it doesn't match up, or if you don't remember which zip code you attached your credit card to, then your transaction gets declined, and that's a pain. Tip number 4 is going to be ship your vehicle in advance as early as you can. The earlier the better, because it could take anywhere from 30 to 60 days to arrive on the island. Personally for us, it took maybe about a month and some change, maybe like a month and a week or a month and 2 weeks, month and a half. I've heard it mentioned that they are now updating it to where military service members are allowed 2 vehicles. There's nothing in black and white yet, so don't take my word for it. As of right now, officially, it's 1 vehicle per service member. So if, by the time you're watching this video, they do allow for 2 vehicles, then take advantage of that if you have 2 vehicles. But it is really helpful to ship a car in advance, so there's a higher chance of it getting here before you do or just shortly after you do, so that way you're not renting a vehicle for too long and spending a lot of money out of pocket, or at least until you can get possible reimbursement. If you do want to check out my PCS videos where we moved to Guam, I have a whole playlist on my channel. I'll link that in the description for you, and shipping the car was one of those steps covered in there. The next tip is to make a list of items that will be potentially hard to find on island, or it would take a long time to get delivered here. Like, don't get me wrong, Guam has a lot, but it doesn't have everything, let's be honest. And so you want to make sure that, things that you can't live without, let's say your, specialty baby formula, specific over-the-counter medications, your favorite products, or like skincare regimens. Those are things that I would say, just kind of load up on that and then include it in your pack out, in your household goods shipment. The example I can use is basically like specific batteries for appliances like our Dyson, you know, like the battery charger or replacement batteries. Apple products, because there's no Apple store here and Apple doesn't ship to Guam, so that might be something that you want to like, you know, put in your pack out. So, you know, just little things like that you think like, okay, let me do my research, you know, does it ship to Guam, or, you know, or will it take a really long time to get to Guam? Do I need it right away? And just put that in your pack out. At this point, I don't even care if it's like windy, it feels nice. Okay, tip number 6 is stay connected with your transportation office leading all the way up until you move. For one thing, you are going to want to confirm your household goods weight allowance, because, you know, it would suck to assume everything's good to go and then you're told like, oh no, it's too heavy and now you got to get rid of some stuff, and then you're scrambling to have to sell those things before you even move. The other thing that I wish I knew about was the personal property / unaccompanied baggage. This is basically a shipment that you can send ahead of you. So it's not with your household goods, like the large stuff, but you can send it ahead of you. And, you know, it wouldn't count towards your, like when you're on a flight and you're limited a certain amount of baggage or luggage pieces. And I wish I knew about that, because the mistake we made was we took so much stuff with us. We had maybe like 14 pieces of luggage. And granted, we only had to deal with, you know, one flight, but checking in all those bags, getting from the, you know, car return area onto the train or the bus that's going to take us to the terminal, like that was a lot. It was a lot of bags for us to carry. Having also our dog in his crate and our daughter like in her stroller, it was like, we could have done without that stress. So yes, ask your transportation office about that, because I believe when we finally found out about it, they told us, oh yeah, it was 500 pounds that you can ship ahead of you. So think of things like maybe extra clothes, your favorite pillows, your like a pack and play, you know, toys. These would more so be the things that you'd want with you right away upon arrival to Guam. Number 7, so let's talk about getting your driver's license. Okay, so I have to interrupt this part of the video because when I originally filmed that, which was like 2 days ago, the Guam law that was in place required dependents to get their Guam driver's license within a certain amount of time arriving to Guam. So I showcased my ordeal of being at the DMV for 8 hours. And I wanted to make sure that I'm giving the most updated information, because literally June 18th, just yesterday, the governor signed the legislation. Active duty service members and their dependents stationed on Guam will no longer be required to obtain local driver's licenses. Exempting active duty service members and their dependents from driver's license requirements serves not only to reduce traffic at the Department of Revenue and Tax driver's license office, but also recognizes their service in defending our island and our nation. So, lucky you if you're just watching this video now. And now I'm so mad that I had to spend that much time at the DMV. Could have done without that stress, but you know what? I spent 8 hours at the DMV so that you don't have to. So tip number 8, this is going to apply if you have pets and if you are planning to ship them to Guam. Guam is rabies free, therefore the pet entry rules are going to be very strict. So the first thing that I'm going to say you should do is get that FAVN test done as early as possible. There are obviously other things that are required, like, you know, updated vaccine record, a health certificate, microchip verification, but the FAVN test is the one that takes the longest. And once the FAVN test results are received, you know, by the lab, that's when it's like a countdown of how long your pet would have to be in quarantine. So if you, for example, got your FAVN test done like 3 months before you arrive here, or that those results got delivered 3 months before you arrived here, then you've already shaved off like a whole lot of time. And so your pet is not having to stay in a quarantine facility longer than they should be, you know, because if you're like us, you know, our dog is family and we could not bear the thought of him staying longer than, you know, like a week in the facility. I think the required amount is like 5 days, or like the shortest amount they can stay there is 5 days. And then upon a vet examination and approval, then they can release him to us. But we did not want him there any longer than 5 days. So if I were you, get that FAVN test done a lot earlier, you know, and then they continue a home quarantine if you still have time. But thankfully, you know, I think the rest of our dog Max's quarantine was maybe just like a week or so, and then we were able to take him out bounding around the beach and just get him in the water. All right, my next tip is make sure you join many local Facebook groups because they are super helpful. I think it's especially great if these groups have a lot of military members already or former military members, but basically people who have done these steps already, because they'll be able to provide a lot of fresh information, and that information is so valuable. Some of my favorites are Guam Military Spouses Connect. You'll see me post in there quite a bit now that we've gotten back in April. Another good one is like Guam Buy, Rent, and Sell. I think you can find a lot of good information on like car sales, cheap car sales. And then I would also say make sure you join Guam Foodies, because that's a good one for if you're interested in like what local eats are around. But yeah, just do your research, find which groups you think that you would get a lot of good information from, and who knows, you might be able to make some friends through there too. Whew, now it's getting kind of hot. I think it's just because the sun is starting to set or get lower, so now I'm like sweating a little bit. Whatever, we'll just say it's like a nice pretty a dewy look. I did it on purpose. All right, tip number 10 is going to be save a minimum of $5 to $6 grand for temporary housing costs. Even with TLA, your temporary lodging allowance, you will have to pay out of pocket first. So, if you don't want to be racking up a whole lot of interest on your credit card, if you're waiting, because, it might be delayed for you to get reimbursed, go ahead and just have that cash on hand. This is going to be for things like hotel stays or maybe rental deposits, car rentals, and those things add up quick. So it just helps, like I said, to have that cash on hand. Savings are a little safer in this scenario, and try to avoid just putting it on your credit card. My next tip is about the area orientation brief. When you arrive on Guam, make sure you attend that. Do not skip it. Check with your sponsor, but I'm pretty sure these briefs are held every 2 weeks. So if you can, get registered for one that once you arrive, you're able to attend, you will be able to get, I believe you have to get like a certificate of attendance. So in order to do any specific paperwork with housing, they have to see that you went to the brief. And the main reason why this was important for us was because we also got to get housing updates. I had mentioned in one of my previous videos, we wanted to stay off base. And in order for us to be allowed that and not have to go through a process, usually the easier route is that base housing is already very highly occupied. So it has to meet a certain percentage of occupancy in order for the service member and his family or his or her family to live outside of the base. So we were lucky because then we found out that, it was at I think 90 or 93%, which is over the limit. And so we were able to coordinate with housing and, move forward with our house hunt. And that's going to kind of lead into tip number 12, which is connect with a realtor early. Only because you won't really be able to find out a lot of the information about housing, especially like base housing, until you arrive here. And it just helps to already have somebody in your pocket like to turn to, just in case. Like, let's say you're planning to live on base, but then you get here and they're like, sorry, there's no more room, there aren't any more homes, you got to go live out in town. You want to make sure that you have somebody already ready to go and already has your search preferences set up, and then you can like secure a spot as soon as possible. Same thing goes for if you want to live out in town. It would just help to already be connected with the realtors so they can already start looking up, places and areas that you want to look at. And then once you arrive on island, you just kind of get right to it. Segue, I did share that I'm working on getting my real estate license here to be able to help military families who are moving here in the future. But in the meantime, I do have a lot of awesome realtor partners that I can connect people with. So if you are moving to Guam anytime soon and you do need a connection, feel free to email me at theislandunicorn@gmail.com and I will get you introduced via email. Oh yes, and in case you were wondering where I'm filming from, this is the Alupang Beach area. It's on like Route 1, which is basically the main road that cuts north to south on Guam. You can kind of see like the traffic there going on in the background. But it's a really nice spot if I want to see the beach but not be baking alive in the sun. There's a lot of like shade from the trees or pavilions. But it is a really nice area. But I do hope this video was helpful for you guys. I wish you so much luck on your future PCS. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Adios!